Good evening, everybody. I know I had asked if anybody wanted to see the where we were as far as like a recap and weekly income and everything on one of the other videos. But anyway, I think one person said they wanted to see it. I could be wrong. There could have been another one or a few more. I know today I haven't been able to go through and read all of the messages that have been out there. I know there's not many, but I haven't had a chance to read through all of those. Any time that I did have this evening, I spent working on this tab. Again, all of these are working products. I'm not really liking the way I have this set up, but it's the way I have it for now. And the reason these are set up, or I'm trying to still figure these out because I'm showing mass data, right? I'm not just showing one very specific ETF or ticker or whatever, right? It's not just Tesla or just Coney. I'm trying to show a bunch of data all at once and trying to do it within the same workbook. But anyway, so what we've been doing the past couple of weeks, and I guess I should here. I'm sure most everybody knows, but what I have basically been going over is the daily trades, or are the daily trades, right? We're going over this and how much those costs are daily, every single trade, individual cost, trade costs for the day, and then we've been going over the holdings. But I'm not really showing you any cumulative data when I've done these. I've even showed you this roll-up tab, though I've changed it. I was going to go over it this last week, some changes, and get your thoughts on some things, but there's just no way I could do it. I just couldn't, so I haven't gone back to that. But either way, all of this stuff they're specific to those days, right? There's nothing here that has been cumulative. So that is what this is now. So I can start trying to build this now and see where we go. Because like I said before, I know people have asked me about coming up with estimates and stuff, what I think the payouts could be, and I wouldn't even have the data for even this month for the last 4 to 5 weeks, whatever. How I guess it would be about 4 weeks since we're short month with the leap year, but I don't have that data. I can't do it. In fact, I can show you. So if we go up here, you see all these reds. I don't have this. Like, I was building the workbook, but I wasn't saving the trades every day because I was like, oh, at that point, I didn't even have things built. And then if you go down here, you can see on some of these lines have data, and that's because I did save those days, but it was a little bit harder. I went ahead and did it today and spent, I don't know, a good hour or two, and it was probably a waste of time because it wasn't very beneficial for me, but was trying to go back and take that data and calculate and put everything in here. But yeah, I probably just should have left it alone. But I don't have the data from the beginning of the month. As you can see, that first week, I don't have that data. So I only have the last 3 weeks, and then of course these few red spots where is guesstimates, as far as because the trades weren't available or whatever, so we don't truly know what they had paid. But the rest of these are from, well, heck, even this first week here, I didn't even do a video until after this first week. I had this data. In fact, the 16th was the day that I was trying to get all the codes down and making sure I was understanding everything. And then I had to go back up above these other 4 days and apply all those codes to that and do those calculations. But what I did go ahead and do is I've broken this up like you see on column D. That's the weekly, and then we have our synthetic. And just so you could see here, by each week, I did a one line week where it sums the weekly, and then the other one some's the synthetic, and then the next line, the it's not really a blue color. I don't know what even color you would call that, but the next colored line there, that is just summing the two above it, so you can see the total. And this is, I mean, there could be some errors in here on these first few because this was new for me, right? And making sure we got everything right. So it may not be 100%, or, we have some of these estimates in here, but this is to give you an idea of what I'm looking at for next month. But I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. And all this data is doing is going and to those tabs and pulling the data that I had already showed you and putting it on here. So just an example here, I can click on this one, and this is going to my, February 20th roll-up tab, and it's going to those columns. It's looking for that AIYY there, and then it's going to return the data that's in column 35 in this case. It may be a little bit different because, like for these up here, they're a little different because, see, I didn't have all that data in there, and I just added columns at the end. But anyway, again, this is the same data. I'm just providing it now to you in a roll-up manner of the overall profits and losses for the weekly and then the synthetic, but I'm doing it for you here by day. And I don't know that you even care to see that here, but I'm showing you all those days. And then here I'm going down to March 4th because I didn't look it up, but I did look at my dividend sheet where I had all my dates, and it showed that the ex-dividend date was the 6th, I believe, which then means the declaration would have been on a 5th, which means they would know at the end of day on the 4th what that distribution would be. So that's why I put that here. I just have that line at the bottom. Of course, that will be tomorrow. But again, my spreadsheet doesn't have everything, so mine's not going to show cumulative amounts for the entire month and just maybe the last 3 weeks. Now, Retire on Dividends, he has posted his predictions for what he, the ones that we know that he tracks. Let me slow down. He's been tracking Tesla and Coney closely, so, he has the accurate data, well, mostly accurate data for those because we know Coney, one day we were missing. And then the rest of them are just estimates, guesstimates by looking out there what was paid previously and stuff like that, and looking at the prices and everything. But so please go check out that video, and if I can figure out how to, I know there's a way I can link a video at the end of this or the beginning of this. I'll figure out see if I can start figuring out how to tag videos in here. So then you could just go over to his video and watch it next. But anyway, I need to write, I think of things that I need to do or things I need to ask, and then I never get them written down. And unfortunately, then I start forgetting about them. And then, so I just got to start making me a to-do list and writing stuff down. But anyway, this is why these videos get long, because I just start talking and rambling. Okay, so we'll go through here, and I don't even know that y'all even care for me to read these, but if we're looking at AIYY here at the top, you can see we have our week 7 of the year. That's just how I have them labeled for now, but we had, for our weekly income, we had about 70,000 and about 203,000 for the synthetic, and we got a total of 272,000. Well, let me go down and then I'll talk about it. And if you look at week 8, you can see that for the weekly, the income for that was about 526,000, and we got about 66,000 on the synthetic. And then we scroll on down to week 9. This is showing that we actually lost. And now I'm wishing I had my phone with me. I do. Let's just make sure right here because that's large. But then again, it looks like we had that offset there. Oh, that's right, because they had earnings and we went past earnings. But anytime I see big stuff like that, I begin to question. So I just want to make sure that I don't have a formula messed up because these are brand new. That was AIYY. Yep. So, of course, we have these on two different lines. So that's awesome. Dang it, sorry. We're almost 4.5 million for that synthetic. I'm sorry, excuse me. I just want to make sure. And then this was a synthetic. So we said 4.5, I think. So that says 1 million. So let me make sure. Yeah, I see that 1 million. So 5.5 million. So yeah, that was a lot. Let's look at the total over here. So this said the total was 27,000, which makes sense because we had a. I was trying to. Where were we at? Yeah. Okay, yeah, 26,756 for those two. But maybe it's just because I can't I can't do math and I'm trying to do multiple things here. So we were talking about February 29th tradings, right? I'm going to pull it up on my phone. I don't have my computer in here with me, but I do have my phone. And, well, I guess now that I look, I could have done it on here. I hate just sitting here and you can't see what I'm doing. Instead of me trying to do all the other stuff, I just don't like doing formulas and like this. So here, plus, let's see, that's a synthetic, this one, and this one. Oh, it is. I guess I just couldn't count it a while ago. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, I know what it was in my head. The top would have been a plus and the bottom one was a minus, and I was adding both of them together. Okay, I thought I had something wrong with my formula. Yeah, so there you go. So it is right. Okay, sorry about that, the detour that we had there. So we had that offset on that large loss of the, so I want to say this. I keep saying weekly, and I know it's not really weekly. It's a short call. Right now, I have all of my stuff coded as weekly in my everything. Yeah, I don't know. I might change it to short at some point. Maybe I'll try to start saying weekly short call instead of weekly call. I guess what I should start trying to learn the correct lingo as I go through all of this, and then hopefully I'll be learning a lot more sooner rather than later. But we will see. So we go down there, week 9, 3.4 million loss, 3.4 million gain. So overall for the week, we made about 19,000 overall, and then we're not on the fourth yet. But if we go down here to the bottom, and I don't like the way this looks by any means, but this was what I ended up with this evening. I spent too much time trying to go in the past and get numbers that I didn't even really need to have on for here. So my apologies. But what I've done is these blue lines, 264 and 265. Again, that lighter blue line is this summing. So you can see here. Let's see if I double click on it like in Excel. Yeah. So you see it's going to those yellow lines and it's just adding them. And then the same thing for the synthetic. It's just going and adding them. So according to this, and then of course the next line is the total. So according to this, with the weekly and synthetic of AIYY, we've only earned about 884,000. So then what I did is went on down here. I went ahead and brought that number down here at the bottom also. And then I just have the outstanding shares there, and then did the calculation of, so we have the income divided by the shares, and that would be the amount per share. Now, I did round this to the 4, and the reason I did is because I'm pretty sure that when Yieldmax does theirs, they'll do it up to the 4th decimal point. I can double check that. I think Defiance, they do 2. I think Yieldmax does 4. I can double check that and change these formulas, but right now I have it to round to that number. But, you know, and if I remember correctly, Retire on Dividend says that for specifically these Yieldmax funds here, that the distribution is based on those short calls and not the synthetics. However, if you look here in this case, assuming, we had the other week of data here, this is showing we would have a loss of 260, but for our weekly short call, but our synthetic, we actually had a gain of 340. So together we would have had 80 cents. So I don't know, that goes back to, I need to go back and listen to some of the interviews with Jay. I need to go back and reread prospectus and all that. And then, so just so I can figure out how these are, and then maybe rewatch me some Retire on Dividends videos, and just make sure I'm paying 100% attention, because sometimes when you're doing things while you're listening, you don't hear everything, even when you're driving, because I'm thinking about things I got to do when I get to work sometimes, even when I watch a video. But anyway, so I just want to show that, and this one's doing the same thing. It's just for this synthetic, and then of course I said this. It's going to add those two together. Right now, this is how I have this spreadsheet set up, and that's just so I could get something out to you this weekend to give you an idea of what the rest of these look like. Again, it's only the last 3 weeks and not the last 4. So if we move on over to AMDY, you can see if we, I don't know, I'm just going to say, I don't want to have to read everyone. I'm just going to say the total amount, right? So for week 7, it shows we had earned a total of 1.1 mil, and then we had about 1.1 mil the next week, and then roughly 1.9 mil the next week. And I'm sorry, when I read these, I tend to round, and then I say mils or thousands. I guess it's because at work I deal with millions of dollars accounts, and so I just have that habit that I round those up there. So I'm hoping that y'all don't have any issues with me rounding those numbers versus just saying out every single number that is there on the page. But overall, it looks like we have gotten 4.2 mil if we're looking at the weekly short call and the synthetic. But if we were looking at them separately down here at the bottom, because of that last week for AMD, we lost on the weekly short call 5.5 million, and then we got 9.8 million for the synthetic, right? So if you were saying, oh, we're just using the weekly short call, well, that's a negative number. And then, of course, with the synthetic, now we have, almost 2 times that, but those two together is $1 and $8.09. So, we'll say, again, this isn't a full month. Now, the next month, since, as long as I don't have any issues and I remember to copy and paste this every day, and I'm doing the videos, then I'll have the full picture in the full month, and then we can sort of see, okay, what we got on here compared to what they actually announced. But even with that, remember, we're just looking at the 1 month, and I don't have all the historical data. So if they paid out in previous months where they were negative but still paid out, that those they may be taking out a future income we've earned, right? So we can, do these estimates all day long, and we can look at the short or the small data that we have for the month. But unless we actually had the whole past year of data, we're never going to be, even 90% accurate. And I say 90 and not 100, because still then they can still choose whatever number they want, right? So there's still that I can't even think of the word I'm trying to say right now, but there's still that decision part of it, right? Of, well, what do we normally pay? What did we make? What do we think would be okay and appropriate to pay? I'm sure they go through those things. I do the same thing with my job. I go through those different types of steps, though I'm dealing with finances and budgets and not stocks and options, right? But anyway, we'll try to move through this a little quickly. So we have AMSI here. We had about 243K, 166K, and then we made a lot, it looks like, this last week, but it looks like it was due to the synthetic, and that was almost 3.7 million. If we were looking down here at the roll-up of the last 3 weeks, it looks like AMSI made about 300K on its weekly short call and about 3.8K on the synthetic, for a total of 4.1 million. So if you look down here and you're just looking at that weekly short call, it would show 13 cents. But if you're looking at the total of the weekly short call and the synthetic, 1.77. But again, 3 weeks of data and not 4. So if we go over to Aptly, we had 353, 275, and 301. That's pretty consistent there. And most of that was from the weeklies versus the synthetics. If we go down, we have the total weekly short call, about 826K, and then about 100K for the synthetic. So if we're looking at the weekly per share, weekly short call per share, it's about 28 cents, and then about 4 cents for the synthetic, for a total of about 32 cents. And so I was going to say something and it just hit me. No. So just in case you're thinking, oh, well, that's 3 weeks. So if, there's one more week, then it's probably, just a little bit more than this, maybe 10 cents more than this, right? 10 cents a week. But that first week, that, they could have lost money. So they could have lost 10 cents a share for all we know, which can make this down to 18 cents. So again, I'm not showing you this to say, oh, this will be close, or even anything, or even suggest that this will be close, or that you could calculate it from here. I'm just trying to show you the process and what I've done so far, and then there's a possibility that this will be what we use next month. The only way that at this point, that I would even change this format or layout or something is if I have time to work on it, right? And it just depends, because it depends on the other things that I'm doing. So even though I may not like the way I've got this laid out here on what I've worked on this evening, it still may remain until I get tired of doing it, seeing it look like this, and then I try to make it better. It just depends on what my priorities are going across the other things. And I'm not even going to go across Coney, because, Rod has the accurate numbers on those. I will just say here, I did talk to him. If y'all remember, on Coney on the 29th, the intraday trades did not get uploaded for those. And so he went back and tried to, he went back to see how much the trades, or how much those options were on that day for those strike prices and everything. And he did an estimate or a guesstimate on about what they probably paid, right? But because you don't know, all the prices change throughout the day, all day. You never know when they bought it to know the exact cost. And I asked him if he'd mind me using those numbers on my spreadsheet, and he said that was fine. However, in the end, I didn't. And the only Here's the only reason I didn't was because for MSTY, we did not have, the first day of let me just go over here because I have them read right here. So the first day they started, right, which was February 22nd, their start date. Well, we know they had holdings before it started, but we don't know how much it costs for them to have those earnings. We don't have those intraday trades for those, right? So we don't really know, even going up front, even if you're following this from the beginning like this, you really truly don't know how much those first trades were. So in this case, what I did is whatever the holding said, the day that they opened, then that's what I put here. So then I just made the decision because I like to be consistent in what I do. Unless I find that, you know, it's not even close or that I should be doing it a different way, I'm going to do all these types of issues the same. So since on this one, I did the holdings the morning of what it said the holdings would have been, the market value, for example. Actually, I should just show you. So that is March 22nd, February 22nd, sorry. So February 22nd, if we go to Misty, right? Yeah. If we go to Misty here, this is where the trades would have been. But since we didn't have those intraday trades, what I did here is I was like trying to look at this like, what did I do? So that's a synthetic. We have that one and this one are synthetics. And then this is our weekly. And so synthetic plus synthetic. So that's 134, 164. So those should match on this other one. 134 and 34. So if we go to here, okay. Well, so let's check what I did, see if I messed up. Because this actually isn't even coming from that tab, and I didn't type it on the other, so it's coming from the roll-up. So let's make sure that I have that one entered, since I had to go manually add this one. Let's see if I did it. I did, but okay. I don't even know if those were the two numbers now. So February 22nd, right? I'm just going to look it up on my phone because it's hard going back and forth and then trying to remember the numbers. That's why I like sitting in my computer and I have multiple monitors that I can see these things on. MS, oh, and I'm on the wrong one. Trades were supposed to be on the holdings tab. I just went over that too. How quickly we forget. MSTY, there we go. So that number right there is, oh, I know why. Because I went to the February 23rd tab and not the February 22nd tab. I was here and I went to the left, right here, because you can see that I did that there. But that was the 23rd, so I should have went to this tab, so I went to the wrong tab, so my bad. I'm sorry. Okay, so right here, synthetic, that looks better. I done thought I had it wrong. So here we have our synthetic plus synthetic. So we have that negative 13 and that negative 19 for the weekly short call. I thought one of those, no, sorry. I thought one of those was, oh, I forgot it's the roll-up, isn't it? So actually I do have that entered in on there wrong, don't I? Because 22nd, this market value is negative, and the sum of those are negative. So when I hard type that in on my roll up, I forgot the negative for this one. So that's a good thing we checked, right? All right. Okay. So that's why I don't like hard typing stuff. I like to use formulas, preferably. Okay. So profit. I'm trying to figure out what did I call the tab. Okay. So anyway, the point of that, before I found an error, which is a good thing we did it though, or else I might not have noticed it. The point of showing this was that I pulled this data from the holdings. So it just made more sense for me to be like, okay, well, any day, if there should be an error, either a new one like this, and we don't see those beginning of the trades, or these like this where the intraday trades are missing for Coney, then I'll just make it simple and I'll do the same thing across the board, and I'm not having to go back and research and spend a lot of time. I know Rod had said he spent an hour the other morning, doing work and stuff, and I know he'd reached out to me and asked me if I had the trades, but I didn't even see that message until, I don't even probably know, way later. So yeah, so I think from now on, if I don't have it, if it's not listed, or if it's a new fund, I'm just going to use what's on the holding, whatever the market value was at the close of the previous day, and move on. And then I can just make it red right here to know that, or a different color, or make a note or whatever. So I know that this is really just an estimate and not the exact trades, right? So, yeah, I wanted to point that out. However, anything with Coney related, y'all can just see that on rods, since this is really just to go over a few of these just to give you an idea, and he has the true trades on those. So if we look at Dizzo here, those first couple of weeks we averaged about 40,000, and the last one we lost about 141,000, because of the weekly short calls. So when we go down here to the bottom, it actually shows, negative for the cumulative amounts. Therefore, it shows the per share price is negative. Hopefully, they made some money on that first week. If we go to FBY, we had about 290, 345, and 272. So that's pretty consistent. Of course, when you look at them, though, weekly and the synthetic, and this is where I guess I get a little confused on, is the distribution really on the short call? Because anytime, well, not anytime, but a lot of the times I'm seeing that when they're going to have a loss, especially if it's a large loss, then they close out some of the synthetic to offset that loss. So I don't know. I will find out though. So, because it's irritating not knowing. But anyways, I mean, because you can see right here, right? They did that loss of 166,000 on February 23rd. Well, they closed out some of their some of the synthetic, so that day overall wasn't a negative, right? And I don't know. It's okay, so that's not in every instance. Well, and I would say, well, the one I was going to point out was this one right here for JPMO. Sorry. I'm going to say that's because they had to close some out because people had sold out and they needed to close, right? Not necessarily because they needed to cover stuff. But I was going to say, I wonder if it is in every instance where they close these and make it, close some more of the synthetics so it's not a large loss, so it's not a negative day. Except for I saw this day is negative, but it's because my assumption is because some people sold out and they had no choice but to sell a few of those. I don't know. I should put that on my list too. What I should do, I guess, is when I get done, go back and watch my own video so I can make all the notes of the things that I wanted to do or follow up on. But, okay, so we were back over here. And so overall, you see we have about 374 on our weekly short call, about 534 on the synthetic with the overall of 908. And if we look on the bottom, for those 3 weeks, you're looking at about 21 cents for the weekly short call and about 30 cents for that synthetic, which is about 51 cents. If we go on over to GUI, we look at that one. Well, we get overall week 7, we're 194K, then 148K on week 8, and week 9, 293K. So that's pretty good average and consistency there. They would average out to about, a couple of 100,000. If we look at the bottom, we have about 293K for the weekly short call, 242K for a synthetic for overall of 635K. I'm just looking. So there's also, I don't see any days that were, this is another thing that I wasn't looking for, but I don't see any losses on here. Even though I know, right, GUI's been going, well, I guess it's because it's been going down. I would assume, but and it doesn't pay a lot, but there's no losses, there's no negative days showing here. Of course, these are, sorry, excuse me, there could have been a loss that day on one trade, but again on another trade of the same, section, and then it just washed out. But just looking at this overall, there were no losses. So we go down to the bottom. I feel like deja vu there. No, those numbers are just similar, I guess. 393K, 243, and 635 overall. So if we look at the bottom, we have our weekly short call about 26 cents and the synthetic, with the total being around 42 cents. So in this case, yeah, we know they're not going to pay 42 cents. But of course, again, we still don't know what that first week was. So I don't think, unless there's something significant, I'm not going to go over this bottom portion down here just so we can get through here, because this is more of a just hey, test this out for the next time, right? Or even the next weekend. So this is me looking at these. But if we were at the end, say today was, or say last Friday was February 16th, I can go through and show you the cumulative, weekly and synthetic for every day versus you just seeing each day. But right now, because there's 3, I'm going over all 3 of them here. So JPMO here. So it was a loss for our weekly short call the first week and the second week there. And finally earned some money on that last week. But just looking at the total earnings for each week, 382, then 139 and 29. And so you can see where there were some, short, I can't even talk right now. I can't think, I'm sorry, where there was the weekly short calls, the negative, then there's a positive of the synthetic. Even when you look on February 28th, the same thing, there's the negative and positive. I'm going to start looking at that. So if you look cumulative down there, it was a loss of 81,000 for the weekly short call, but a gain of 633 for the synthetic. So if we go over to Murney, there's lots of negatives on that first week. which then makes me wonder, because then that takes away what I was just saying as far as, oh, if there's a negative week, then there's possibly going to be a weekly short call. There's possibly going to be a positive synthetic. But in this case, that is not the case. And I don't know if it's because people had sold out for or something. And they had to close some, had no choice but to close some, or for the fact that they had good earnings there. What I should do, which I don't guess it matters, but I should link these dates to the tab so it would take me to the tab, but I'm not going to go look it up because I know this video has been way longer than it needed to be already, so sorry about that. The second week of Murney there, it looks like all they had was the closeout of the weeklies on Friday, where they gained 270, and then the same thing on the next week, so 208, so that's pretty good. So the first week was bad, the next couple of weeks were good. But you can see for the weekly short call, they actually brought in 837, but then lost 341 on that synthetic for a total gain of 496,000. If we move over to MSFO, we have 221, then 124, and 172. So total weekly short call 445,000, and synthetic 73,000 for a total of 518,000 brought in for those 3 weeks. And then so this one, of course, is our new one. Again, those first lines right there are due to not knowing the exact cost of those trades and just using the holdings. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about the holdings in my head. Okay. So far, since the inception of this fund, we're looking at about a loss of 812,000 for our weekly short calls, but a gain of 1.2 million for the synthetics, for a total of 431,000, or 32,000, I guess, rounded up there. So if we go to Netflix here, my battery's gonna die again. I didn't have it charging today. So what did I say? Netflix. So 24,000, 329,000, and 483,000. And those first week there, week 7 and week 9, they lost a lot of money on those weeklies. But of course, got money from the synthetic to make up for that. But our total at the bottom there brought in is $838,000. If we go over to NVIDIA, we have some big numbers there. 3.7 or 3.8 million, 2.7 million, and then 687,000. So big difference on that last day. 8.5 million for the weekly short calls, a loss of 1.3 million for the synthetics, for a total gain of 7.1 million. I'll just show you the bottom, even though we know it's not, it really doesn't mean anything at this point. So OARC, it looks like we got 615,000, then 670, and then 711. So we did good the first 2 weeks for the weekly short calls. Then we lost some on the weekly short call, but then they closed out some synthetic positions. But overall, you can see we have earned about 200 million off of all of those. So we're going to move over to PayPay. And looks like we're almost at the end. So PayPay here. Sorry, I just thinking about Ride's video telling me how it's supposed to be pronounced. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have 158,000, 65,000, and then 65,000. So we ended up having, I guess without going and looking, I'm curious though, it would have been very consistent if we didn't have to close out or didn't close out some of those synthetics, because it looks like we'd had if we're just looking at the weekly short calls, we had 69, 64, and 65. But we closed out some synthetics up there. So I don't know, but overall 287,000 there. So block or SQY. Let's see. Ooh, we had a bad week 8 right there, or not a bad one, but for our weekly short calls, we had negative 2.2 million on that one. But again, synthetics were closed out to cover that loss. So we had 854,000, then we had almost 4 million, then 346,000. And those 3 weeks total a loss for the weekly short call of a negative 1.1 million. And then the synthetic, we gained 6.2 for a overall 5.2 million. Tesla, not going to go over because Rod has those exact numbers. And then we have Zomo. I guess that first one was because, or I'm going to assume February 14th was because people sold out of the fund and they had to close things. And I'm going to guess the same thing for February 27th. For the week 8, they only closed out on Friday because of the weekly call expiration, or the weekly short call expiration. And then on March 1st, they didn't have one because they didn't have any weekly calls that expired on March 1st. They skipped that week, and I never went to look to see. I don't know if for some reason they didn't have any that week. I really don't know, but I know they went straight from February 23rd to March 8th. So I know I talked a lot in the beginning because, again, new spreadsheet, everything we do is going to be mostly new or changing as we go through things. And again, this was more of an exercise than anything. An exercise, but also to show you where these have gone. And like I said, if we did this in the future, we would just show, we would just be really going over those weekly, where we were cumulative and weekly, right? But yeah. All right. I know. It took way too long to do that, and I talk too much, and I get off track, and then I feel like I have to explain so much stuff. I do the exact same thing at work. I tell this person I'm trying to train how to do things. I'm like, if you think you have a quick question, I promise you it will never be a quick question. And then everything takes time to explain, and then I'm going to get off at trying to explain 10 more things to you that you may or may not even want to know. So I do apologize for that. But let me know what you think about this. I know only a couple of people maybe even wanted to see this to begin with. But I figured I'd go ahead and do it. I worked really hard today, and it made me work on it, right? If I have to do a video, then it's going to make me work on this. So that's why I worked on this spreadsheet all night tonight. Otherwise, I'll just keep kicking the can down the road, which is what happened when I started these videos 2 weeks ago. If I hadn't have done it and then just started doing whatever, I wouldn't have started saving all these things and make myself start learning all this stuff. But anyway, like I said, let me know what you think. And then also, because somebody had suggested maybe I only cover like the single stock Yieldmax ETFs, or like UL or ULTY. Maybe do one of them daily and one of them weekly. I think I'm going to think about it. If it comes down to it and I have to choose one or the other, I will. And I think that I've decided I will choose it based off of the likes. I did look at a lot of the videos, the likes versus the views, and we only get about 15% likes to the views. And I mean, that could be just because my videos suck, and that's awesome. I mean, right? I mean, I know they're not great, and they're not like all those other people out there, and the theatrics and all the time spent doing things and editing things and being so professional and having a script ready and reading and all that stuff. There's no way we could do this with any of these. Just like the conversation the other night, Rod and Max in the Discord and stuff, talking about, going in and putting those breaks in there so you could fast forward through stuff. There's no way we can do that. Because, well, one, Max said it's complicated. I've never tried. He said it's complicated, but I mean, we're doing these videos every day. And in this case, like there's 18 tickers, and if it's difficult and doing it every day, it's really just not worth the squeeze there. So that's not something that would get done. But anyway, if so I don't get burnout, and if I have to narrow it down, again, I think I'm gonna go based off of the fun or the videos with the most likes, right? Is it the ULTY that's getting the most likes, or is it the Yieldmax named ETFs that's getting the most likes? So we will see. I just thought I'd bring that up. This is the first time I've mentioned it, but just wanted to throw that out there and see what y'all thought about that, how you felt. But anyway, hopefully this gives you an idea at least where we're going into the week, what you can sort of see what's happened the last 3 weeks with these. Some of them are more consistent than others, but we know past performance isn't always going to be future performance, but it gives us an idea of how things have been going. Thank you. If you've watched it this far, I appreciate you. And y'all have a good night. Bye.